Hello everyone. In this video, we will learn to identify like terms with regards to surds. We will also learn to add and subtract surds by taking some example questions. Let's start our discussion with like terms. We have already discussed like terms in algebra. In algebra, like terms consists of same variable, same power. Look at the examples. We have 3x and 7x. Look carefully that in both the terms we have the same variable x raised to the power of 1. The second example says minus 2y squared and 5y squared. Again, the variable is y in both the terms raised to the power of 2. Let's talk about the third example. We have p cubed and negative 4p cubed. Again, the variable is p and the powers are the same. So these are some few examples of like terms in algebra. Now let's talk about like terms in the world of surds. Here, if the number under the square root is the same for all surds, they are like terms. Let's look at some examples. Here we have 3 root 5 and 7 root 5. Look closely that here the number under the root is root 5 in both the numbers. So these are like terms. Similarly, in the second example, we have root 2 and minus 4 root 2. So the number under the root is 2 in both these numbers. So these are also like terms. The third example is 10 root 7 and root 7. Again, the number under the square root is 7. And that is why these are examples of like terms. What about root 5 and negative 2 root 7? Are they like terms? No, right? Why? Because the numbers that are present under the root symbol, 5 here and 7, they are not equal. There are different numbers present under the root symbol in both the numbers. So these numbers will not be like terms. All right. Now let's move on to some example questions. Through these questions, we will learn how we can add or subtract surds. So let's begin. Our first example says 3 root 5 plus root 5. Remember that here we only need to operate on the coefficients. Here we have 3 as the coefficient, and here we have 1 as the coefficient. Now there is a sign of addition here, so we need to add these surds. We will only operate on the coefficients. So 3 plus 1 is 4, and then we will write the surd, that is root 5. So 3 root 5 plus 1 root 5 is 4 root 5. This is very similar to what we have already learned in algebra. We know that 3x plus x is 4x. Now, if you treat x as root 5, you can understand that why 3 root 5 plus root 5 is 4 root 5. Just replace x with root 5 and you will arrive at the right answer. Let's solve another question. We have 3 root 5 minus 2 root 5. Again, remember that here we only need to operate on the coefficient. So we need to subtract here. So 3 the coefficient and 2 the second coefficient. We need to subtract these coefficients. So 3 minus 2 is 1, and then the third part, that is root 5. So 1 root 5 is simply root 5. Again, if you want to understand it from the analogy of algebra, you can think of it as 3x minus 2x. 3x minus 2x is x, where x is root 5. So if you replace x with root 5, you get 3 root 5 minus 2 root 5 is root 5. Moving on to the next question. So here we have some surds and we need to simplify this. Before attempting this question, let's understand one very simple thing, that just like algebra, we can only add or subtract like terms. That is why we discussed like terms in the beginning of this video. So, to solve this question, we need to first identify like terms and club them together and then operate on them. So, let's find like terms in this expression. Look carefully, we have 4 root 5 here, right? So 4 root 5, and then we have plus 6 root 5. We already know that these are like terms, so let's write them together. We have 4 root 5 plus 6 root 5, right? And then we have negative 2 root 2 here and negative 3 root 2. These are also like terms. So let's write them together. We have negative 2 root 2 and negative 3 root 2. Okay, so now we can add the like terms together. We have 4 root 5 plus 6 root 5. Now remember what I have just told you, that we need to only operate on the coefficients, that is 4 added to 6. 4 plus 6 is 10, so it would be 10 root 5. And here we have negative 2 root 2 minus 3 root 2. Again, we will only operate on the coefficients. Minus 2 minus 3 is minus 5. Minus 5 root 2. And this would be our final answer. Moving on to the next question, we have 7 root 5 minus root 20. Let me ask you one question. Are root 5 and root 20 like terms? You may say that since the number under the square root are different, they are not like terms, but that would be incorrect. Why? Because root 20 is not yet simplified. Remember that whether or not two or more than two terms are like or not, we can only comment on that when we have all the surds in their simplified form. So we have root 20 here, right? Root 20, and you already know how we can simplify this surd. I will find factors of 20, and one of them would be a perfect square closest to 20. So I can think of 4 times 5. Now I can write it as square root of 4 multiplied by square root of 5. Square root of 4 is 2. 2 times root 5 is 2 root 5. Now 2 root 5 and this 7 root 5, these are like terms. So we can subtract or add them together. But when we saw the question for the first time, it looked like root 5 and root 20 are not like terms. That is why always simplify surds before adding or subtracting. This is very important, very vital. So now let's solve this question. We have 7 root 5 minus root 20. Okay, so 7 root 5 minus root 20 is 2 root 5. We just simplified root 20. It is 2 root 5. Now we have the like terms and we need to subtract. So we will just subtract the coefficients. 7 minus 2. 7 minus 2 is 5 and root 5 will be there. So 5 root 5 would be our final answer. Moving on to the next question. Look carefully, we have a bracket here in this question. Okay, so here we have minus 2 and then this bracket. So we need to multiply this minus 2 with 1 and we will multiply this minus 2 with root 6. So there are two multiplications that we need to perform here, right? So let's start with the first multiplication because we need to operate on the bracket first. That is the rule. So the first multiplication is minus 2 multiplied by 1. That is just minus 2. And the second multiplication is minus 2 multiplied by root 6. So that is minus 2 root 6. Now going back to the original question, we have 2 root 6 plus 3. That is the part that is present outside the bracket, and then we have minus 2 from the first multiplication, and then we have minus 2 root 6 from the second multiplication. You can see that I can easily club the like terms together. 2 root 6 minus 2 root 6, that is 0. And then we have 3 minus 2. 3 minus 2 is 1. So 0 plus 1 is 1. And it would be the final answer. Let's solve the next question. We have two brackets here. There is 4 and we need to multiply this 4 with root 7 and we need to multiply this 4 with negative root 2. So we have two multiplications here. This is the first one and this would be the second multiplication. In the next part we have another bracket and there is this negative sign. We can put a 1 here and that is all. So let's multiply. We have the first multiplication as 4 times root 7, that is 4 root 7. The second multiplication is 4 times negative root 2, that is minus 4 root 2. right? Now let's go back to the original question we had. Let's write the result of the first multiplication. We have 4 root 7, and then the result of the second multiplication we have minus 4 root 2. And now look carefully, we need to multiply this negative 1 first to root 7 and then to negative root 2. This negative sign will change all the signs inside the root. So root 7 will become negative root 7, and the negative root 2 will become positive root 2. Now let's find the like terms. We have 4 root 7 here and negative root 7 here. These are the like terms. Also negative 4 root 2 and root 2 are like terms. Let's club them together. We have 4 root 7 minus root 7, and then we have minus 4 root 2 plus root 2. Now we need to subtract 4 root 7 minus root 7, so just subtract the coefficients. We know that here we have a 1 present, so 4 minus 1 is 3 root 7, and here we have minus 4 plus we have a 1, so minus 4 plus 1 is minus 3 root 2. You can factor out 3, so it would be 3 multiplied by root 7 minus root 2, and this would be our final answer. Now let's solve the same question with a different method. Look carefully. You can see we have root 7 minus root 2 here and root 7 minus root 2 present here. So it is being repeated 2 times. So we can assume, let's assume root 7 minus root 2 is equal to x. So if you replace root 7 minus root 2 as x in the original question, it will become 4x minus x. Why? Because I have replaced this whole part with x, so that would become 4x, and here I have replaced this whole part with x, so here I have written minus x. 4x minus x is 3x. Now if we put the value of x here, that is root 7 minus root 2, we get our answer. You can check that we have the same answer in the method 1, and in the method 2 we get the same result. That is all for today's video. The next video on multiplying and dividing surds is coming soon. Thank you for watching.